College football fanatics, welcome in, welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where I examine, discuss, honor, and celebrate all things college football across the entire college football landscape, but with a very special emphasis on our beloved black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Welcome back. It's great to be with you once again. I'm your host, as normal, Blair Parks. Holla at you, boy! Excellent. What a great week one we witnessed. It was epic. Hopefully that'll rub off here and continue into week two. As today I bring you my week two preview and picks episode. Wow, what a great beginning to the college football season that we all witnessed last week. After 5 straight days, a buffet of college football, Thursday through Monday. Wow, what a way to get started, and just absolute instant classics from coast to coast, north to south, and everywhere in between. Now, today on the agenda, I've got a great episode lined up for you. First of all, I'm going to give you my Heisman Trophy update as far as share with you, remind you, if you did not watch my 2022 Bold Predictions episode, I'm going to review and share with you my Heisman Trophy finalists and candidates, and also either add or subtract some individuals based on their heroics and their efforts from week one. Then I am going to give you a little bit of a headline update on the college football playoff. Great news for all of you members of the expansionist party, and I am one of those as well. We are very happy. And then we're going to move into the pick segment, starting off with my potential trap games, and I'll be joined by a very special guest to help me with the trap game segment. Then I'm going to give you my week two picks and preview, kind of do them simultaneously. And then to wrap it up, my debut of my Sound Off segment. And this is something that I'm going to be doing each and every week during the preview episodes prior to that weekend's games. And what that is going to consist of is basically me putting 2 minutes on the clock and just letting it flow. I am going to get things off of my chest, off my shoulders. If you happen to be a Family Guy fan, think of it, during Peter Griffith's What Grinds My Gears, when he was doing that for the local news station there in Quahog. So you definitely don't want to miss my Sound Off segment, especially if you're a Penn State fan, Penn State student, Penn State alum, friend of the program, or the complete opposite. If you are a potential Penn State hater, you definitely don't want to miss that later this episode. But before we dive right into it, as always, thank you for everything you've done for the channel and for me personally. This is an absolute pleasure for me to be here with you, sharing my love and passion for college football. Views are up, rates are up, comments way up, subscriptions are doing better. I need your help. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Black and Gold family, college football fans alike, I need your help. Let's go ahead and keep a good thing coming. And as always, I always encourage any involvement. Comments, likes, shares. If you would like me to add something, if I missed an important piece of information or completely botched something, let me know. Or if there is an issue or subject you'd like me to present on an upcoming episodes, please feel free to let me know. I always encourage any involvement and interaction with you, college football fans, and the Black and Gold family. And as you know, I will make the occasional mistake. I don't do any edits. I don't do any retakes. I don't do any dress rehearsals. I just, in front of me, record, end, download, and send. Because if I did any more work than that, it'd be a job. And I've already got me a jobby job. I'm a very busy man, so this is strictly just a hobby. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, let me know how I'm doing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started. Ha! I'm feeling good. Let's get it. So, to start off with today, I'm going to give you my Heisman Trophy update heading in to week 2, following week 1, which is now disappearing and is gone in the rearview mirror. And to share with you once again, if you didn't check out my 2022 Bold Predictions episode, feel free to check it out. I think you will enjoy it. I have 4 Heisman finalists that I believe will be in NYC fighting to hoist the hardware when that time comes. And I definitely believe those 4, based on week 1, are still alive and very much in the race. And those 4 individuals, starting off just going alphabetically, I have Will Anderson Jr., the stud linebacker from Alabama. I have Travion Henderson, stud running back from Ohio State. I have quarterback Hendon Hooker from Tennessee, and quarterback C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. Those are my 4 original finalists, and I'm sticking with them. They got off to really good starts last week. But after how it went down in the swamp, down in Gainesville, I have to add an individual right now to the Heisman Trophy watch list, Blair's Heisman Trophy watch list. And his heroics, how he managed the game, the plays that he was able to orchestrate. He was out there like a great composer, a John Williams-like. I've got to add Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson to this list. I mean, the guy has really exploded now onto the scene, and he's going to have another opportunity here in week 2 to only further cement and to further increase his stock towards the Heisman Trophy. Florida hosts a big-time SEC East Division rival in Kentucky, a game I'm definitely going to have during my Pick'em segment later this episode. So he's only going to have another chance to further increase his name and throw his name into the hat for the Heisman Trophy. So that's what I have as far as my Heisman Trophy update as of now after week 1, heading into week 2. Now, and also, I think it has slipped my mind. I've been a very, very busy man lately. I mean, traveling for my mother's surgery, full-time job, working overtime, 2 children. I try to be the best father and husband I can be, while also maintaining a halfway decent personal life. Also then being involved in a wedding. So there's been a lot of things that have kind of distracted me from my usual episodes here with you, even though this is only season 2 for the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. But I don't believe I ever shared with you who I believe is going to win the Heisman Trophy. So I'm going to share that right now. And I am an honest man. I know it's a weekend, but prior to the season, I picked Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud to take home the Heisman Trophy hardware, and I'm sticking with my pick as of now. Now the playoff field. Now I'm going to combine this with a big-time headline. But before I get to the headline concerning the the college football playoff field, I'm going to share with you my playoff teams because I'm sorry. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. I did list my 4 college football playoff teams during the 2022 Bold Predictions episode, but I didn't give you what I believe their seeds would be and what the final matchup for the national title would be and who would hoist the national championship trophy. So I'm going to share that with you right now. And you're going to see from what I'm telling you that I am not backtracking, because if I was somebody who was dishonest, I would have not included this team that's going to have a little bit of work cut out for themselves now. But as Captain Jack Sparrow once said, I'm dishonest. The dishonest man is the one you have to be on the lookout for. But I am an honest man. So my playoff field is as follows. I have number 1, Alabama. They are my 1 seed in the college football playoff field. and they will be facing off in the first round against number 4 seed Clemson. That's right, kind of traditional rivals, Alabama and Clemson. I have them facing off as the 1 and 4 seed. Now, the 2 and 3 seed that I projected and I predicted that would be in the college football playoff are the number 2 seed would be the Ohio State Buckeyes, and number 3, proving my point that I'm not going back on my word, I'm picking number 3 seed, the Utah Utes, the 2 Utes, which unfortunately fell to Florida in week 1 due to a late goal line stand. Really an epic game. It was a game to remember. So Utah definitely has a little bit of work to do. You know, they definitely have a very, very, very small window and room for error now. I mean, they really have to almost play perfect football from here out. But I still think they're in a good position because I think everybody is going to end up with at least one loss when the dust clears prior to bowl season. So, in advancing to this, the national championship matchup, I have Alabama defeating Clemson to reach the national championship game, and in a surprise, in the Rose Bowl rematch from last season, I actually like number 3 Utah to knock off number 2 Ohio State. That's right. So in the national championship game, I have Alabama facing off with Utah in a in an offensive and defensive struggle back and forth. I think it would be very low scoring. 2 teams that are very physical along the lines of scrimmage. It's just going to come down to who plays better, cleaner football. Win the penalty battle. Special teams don't have any special teams gaffes. Win the turnover battle. Time of possession. And just bet what offense can make the better decisions of the 2. And we've seen Alabama in this position time and time again. Hardly ever do they falter. So I do like Alabama to defeat Utah in the national championship game. So the Alabama Crimson Tide are my national championship pick for the 2022 season. So I apologize once again for not sharing that with you before now. My apologies. I hope you forgive me. But now that it's so it is said, so it shall be written, so it shall be done. So I'm putting my ass on the line, my reputation for you, the Black and Gold family. Now, a quick headline concerning the college football playoff field. It came out late last week that indeed the college football playoff field will be expanding to 12 teams no later than 2026. But presidents, regents, media personnel, they are working on trying to implement this as soon as possible and practical. So worst case scenario, 2026, we're going to have a 12-team college football playoff. And how that's going to work is the 6 highest ranked conference champions will receive automatic bids to the field. So that'd be the Power 5, and the highest ranked conference champ from the non-Power 5 ranks would get an auto bid. It's very similar to right now what they have for the New Year's Six Bowl. So right now, the highest ranked non-Power 5 champion, you know, they at that point automatically would get the auto bid to play in one of the New Year's Six Bowls. But we definitely have an upgrade here because they will get a legitimate shot at the national title in the official playoff field. So I love that upgrade and update. And so then you'll have 6 at-large teams. But one thing I'm surprised with, there is no limit per how many teams per conference. So could you have 3 from the SEC, 3 from the Big Ten? It's a possibility. So I thought they would cap a limit for each conference, but they chose not to. So the top four ranked teams will receive an automatic first round bye, and then seeds 5 through 8 will host the rest of the playoff field for games on campus sites. I love this. I love having big time games on campuses for playing for potential big prizes. I love that. I'm sick and tired of all of these neutral site games. I mean, just a good example of that would be over the weekend, week 1, we had Oregon and Georgia meeting in a neutral site in Atlanta. I mean, come on. But then the semifinals are going to kind of revolve among the current bowl games as they're doing right now. So they'll rotate year to year between the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, Fiesta, Sugar, Rose Bowl. So that is going to be the format for the fast approaching 12-team college football playoff field. So this is excellent. If you're a member of the expansionist party, like myself, we are celebrating. We give you a hand, hats off, salute. This has been a long time coming, and I just ask, what took so long? All right, so now let's move into the picks and preview segment for upcoming week 2. But before that, let's go ahead and get into some potential trap games. That's right. Each and every week I try to share with you some potential games to where a team might be looking ahead, or they just came off a big time victory. Maybe that emotional letdown, we see it year in and year out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and cue him up. What are these games going to be, Admiral Akbar?
It's a trap.
That's right. These are the trap games for week 2. When I look at some of these games, I'm scared, I'm afraid. So let's start off with the UTSA Mimip. The Roadrunners travel to West Point to take on Army and the Black Knights in their triple option attack. And I'm putting UTSA on trap alert because UTSA next week in week 3 travels to in-state powerhouse Texas. So you know UTSA is going to get up to face Big Brother in the Lone Star State for recruiting purposes, profile, and national prominence. So, but UTSA, do not look past the Army Black Knights. Next game on my trap game alert is Georgia Southern and Nebraska. And I'm putting Nebraska on trap alert, even though they are at home. But next week, Nebraska hosts Oklahoma, which I think this game will be this will be the deciding factor if Scott Frost gets fired now during season or at the end of the season. I think everything hinges on what Nebraska does in next week's game in Lincoln against the Sooners. So whether they win or if they just look competitive, there's so much riding on that. They have got to know this, the players and the coaching staff. They've already probably making the preparations for Oklahoma, but do not look past Georgia Southern, a team that can put up some offensive points. So be on the lookout, Big Red. My next game on my trap list potential is NIU, the Northern Illinois Huskies, a team that I'm very, very high on, the defending MAC champions. They travel to Tulsa to take on the Golden Hurricane. That's right, not the Hurricanes, the Hurricane of Tulsa. Next week, NIU travels to Music City to take on a much improved Vanderbilt squad from the SEC. So this could potentially be next week a huge program win for the NIU Huskies, defeating a Power 5 SEC squad. I think they are definitely capable of doing that. But first things first, take care of your business and don't overlook Tulsa. Next game, and the last game that I have for trap games, other than one that I included during this week's picks, is Mississippi State. The Bulldogs travel to Arizona to take on the Wildcats, and wow, this is going to be a good game. It's a late game, as you know from watching previous episodes prior to this year's kickoff. I am high on this Mississippi State squad. I think they are a legitimate sleeper team in the SEC West, and if things do go their way, maybe even potentially a college football playoff dark horse and then some. But Arizona's coming off a good win last week. They spoiled San Diego State's night, unveiling their brand new stadium there in San Diego. Went on the road for a quality win. Way to go, Wildcats. So Mississippi State, you're on trap alert because next week the Bulldogs travel to Death Valley down in the Bayou to take on LSU. So Mississippi State, don't look past Arizona. So those are my... What games are these again? I forget. What are they?
It's a trap.
That's right. These are my trap games for week 2. All right. So feel free. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Comment. Let me get a quick swig of water. Now, before I move into my official picks for week 2, I just want to give you an overall theme and a narrative for why week 2 is big. It's huge because we saw a lot of puzzle pieces get moved with the results of week 1. But after some of these games take place here in week 2, a lot of these puzzle pieces are going to start to finally connect, and the overall puzzle is going to start coming into view. Who's legit, who's pretenders, and who's contenders. It's really going to start to reveal itself. Now, an overall theme, and I want to tell you guys each and every week what division within college football and what conference overall has the most to gain during the upcoming week. And this week, the division in football that has the most to gain, to make a statement, to garner a little bit more respect and chit-chat, is the SEC East. There are lots of big-time matchups involving SEC East teams, including our very own beloved black and gold squad of the Missouri Tigers. Now, the conference that has the most to gain, and hopefully this conference will take advantage. Last week, opening week, it was the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was given the opportunity to make some noise, send a clear-cut message, make a statement, but they fell short. Those big-time games, Oregon against Georgia, Utah at Florida, they really came up short and they could not answer the bell. This week, hopefully they don't make the same mistake. It's the Big 12. The Big 12 has some major matchups this week that really could put them on the map and get them into the discussion for what conference early on in this season has the best chance and deepest from top to bottom. So Big 12, you're on the clock. All eyes will be on you this weekend, as will teams in the SEC East. So that being said, let's get to everybody's favorite segment, my picks segment. And for week 2, let me just kind of remind you and bring you up to speed. If this is your first time tuning in for my picks episode for On the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, as always, I say thank you, gracias, obrigado, danke, merci beaucoup. This is what I'm trying to do. Each and every week, I pick 15 games that I pick. Some of these games will be absolutely the headline games, but some will also be kind of off-the-radar games that I want to bring a little bit of attention to. And also, I try to spread the love among all of the conferences, whether they're Power 5 and non-Power 5. I want to give everybody at least a little bit of a shout-out and give them a bite at the apple. So, of the 15 games, each and every week I have 6 spotlight games. And one of them, I always start off with my Academy game of the week, and that's going to feature one of the 3 teams from the Academy schools, whether it's Army, Air Force, or Navy. That's my way of saying thank you and saluting the men and women of the armed forces, and thank you for your service, all that you've done and all that you will do in the future. Then I also always will select the non-Power 5 matchup of the week, basically looking at the best matchup between 2 legit non-Power 5 schools and what that matchup means moving forward for them, whether it's a conference game or a non-con matchup, which I believe this week it absolutely is. Also, I always have an FCS Spotlight Game of the Week. Hats off to Division I at the FCS level. They play a good brand of football. Last week, we had 2 upsets. 2 teams from the FCS knocked off 2 teams from Division I FBS. Congratulations, the William and Mary Pride. They knocked off, really shellacked Charlotte. The Miners went down. And also to the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens. They took on and defeated Navy and their triple option attack. So well done, FCS. And I'm sure we're going to have at least one FCS team spring an upset of a Division I FBS team this week. Also included in my 6 Spotlight games, every week, that our beloved black and gold squads take the field, I will be picking the Missouri and Iowa games. And finally, I'll pick my headline game of the week, the game that is the most important, that all eyes will be on. And this week, it was very, very difficult to pick. I ended up picking the one that most everybody else will, but there were 4 games that potentially could have been my headline game of the week. And I'll get to that here very shortly. So that's what goes into my weekly picks for college football. Now, ultimately, my goal is this. By the end of the regular season, I want to be straight up at or above 70% correct. I would prefer to be near 75. Last year just was not my year. I ended up 59%. Kind of a rough year for your boy Blair here. But last year was a year unlike none other. It basically was proven very early on that everything that we saw from the COVID-shortened season, all of the stats and analytics and trends could be thrown directly out the window. So I'm definitely going to try to improve myself and get over that 70% plateau. Last week, not a bad way to start here, truthfully. Yours truly went 9-6, good enough for a 67% correct rate. So definitely getting on the right track here, and I only want to improve. So that's what I'm shooting for. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get into my week 2 picks and previews. So the first 2 games that I chose, I definitely wanted to highlight the higher institutions of higher learning, the knowledge schools. All 4 of these, and plus the beauty of it is, all 4 of these teams are off to good starts. I mean, these 4 teams are all undefeated at this point. And I love when these teams are better and when they face off, their alums and people close to their programs, they think they have a shot against the other. That's why I love these so-called Brainiac games, and I've got 2 of them to start off today. The first game, it's an ACC Big Ten battle. Duke travels to Northwestern. Northwestern looked very, very good in week 0 in Dublin, Ireland, over Nebraska. Duke really bit it off and broke it off last week, shutting out Temple in Coach Mike Elko's debut. Well done, Coach. In this matchup, in recent history, Northwestern has really struggled against some of their brethren from higher education schools. And Duke has defeated them a couple times recently, so has Stanford. They really seem to struggle. They had a week off to prepare after their travels abroad. Watching these 2 teams, sometimes history does repeat itself, but I just like Northwestern this game. I think they have an identity. I trust Coach Patty Fitzgerald way more than I do a brand new coach and Coach Mike Elko. It's in Evanston outside of Chicago. It's going to be definitely a physical, drawn-out battle, a rock fight within a rock fight, but I like Northwestern. Go Cats. And the next and final Brainiac game I have for you, number 23 Wake Forest travels to Music City to take on undefeated 2-0 Vanderbilt. That's right, break up Vanderbilt. You heard it right. What a great game. This is going to be, especially with the news that just broke, I believe 2 days ago, that Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman is now back with the team. He was kept out the last couple weeks with a non-football related injury. It ended up being a blood clot issue. He was released a couple days ago, is rejoining the team, and all reports are saying that he does plan on starting this game, which is excellent for the Demon Deacons. On the other side, I love Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright. This guy is a playmaker. He's dynamic. He's dynamite to watch on the field. Option read type quarterback. Really gets things done with his legs, his decision making, but definitely has a little bit more work to do passing the ball. I like Wake Forest's offense. Vanderbilt, I think, will keep it close. They are improving, there's no doubt, under second-year coach Clark Lee. But I just like Wake Forest ultimately by 14 to 20 points. I just think they'll outscore Vandy. I like the Demon Deacons to get the win in Nashville and then go to the Loveless Cafe as a team to celebrate by depleting the biscuit population within and around Music City. Next game, number 3, and this is the one game that I included during my picks that could be a potential...
It's a trap.
That's right. This could be a potential trap game. Appalachian State, who gave us a great game opening week, 40 points scored in the fourth quarter, almost came all the way back and defeated in-state school Big Brother North Carolina at home in Boone, North Carolina. They take their talents on the road to College Station and take on number 6 Texas A&M. So Texas A&M, it could be a trap game because next week A&M hosts number 15 Miami. So they better not be looking past the Mountaineers. But the real question is, what a emotional roller coaster it was for Appalachian State in week 1. Are they going to be able to pick themselves back up, or that loss, that crushing loss, which they were a 2-point conversion away, it was a failed 2-point conversion from coming back and being victorious over the Tar Heels? Did that maybe take all the wind out of their sails? I love quarterback Chase Bryce for Appalachian State, but I just think Texas A&M, I think they're just too good. They have too much talent, even though they are very young. I really have big-time uber concerns about their quarterback play moving forward. Plus, it's at home, the home of the 12th man. I expect a good game, but I think ultimately SEC strength and depth and speed proves too much. I like the Aggies at home over Appalachian State. Number 4 and 5. These are huge games, and already I mentioned one from the SEC East. Remember, that division has a ton to gain this week. The first matchup I already shared with you, I apologize for not bringing it to your attention, was that Wake Forest-Vanderbilt game. Now the next two, big time, uber important, because it really could determine. These next 2 games that I have picks, we really want to see what team from the SEC East is going to be the biggest threat and rival to defending national championship team Georgia. And these 2 games that are next on my pick list is really going to help us determine that. The first game, number 24 Tennessee travels to the Steel City to take on number 17 Pittsburgh. This is a return trip from last year's Classic down in Knoxville, where Pittsburgh and Heisman Trophy finalist Kenny Pickett were able to escape Rocky Top with a victory. Woo! And I am very high on this Tennessee team. Obviously, I shared with you earlier this episode, Hendon Hooker. I think he will be a Heisman Trophy finalist. I really love this team. I like Pitt. I think they're solid on both sides of the line. I love their defense. But I think in a big-time revenge spot, I think Tennessee is hungry. I think they want to make them pay after what happened to them last year. I like Tennessee's offense just to pull away. I think they are way too much for Pittsburgh. I think Pitt will be competitive. They will put up some points on the scoreboard, but ultimately I like Tennessee big in this game. So I'm going with the Volunteers. And the next game, basically, this was one of the games that could have been my headline pick of the week. It's a big game, especially after what happened and unfolded last week during week 1. Number 20, Kentucky, travels to the Swamp to take on number 12, Florida. You have Iowa City South in Kentucky, and I've said that a few times because of the Iowa connections. I mean, Coach Mark Stoops of Kentucky played and was a coach at Iowa for a quick hot moment. So they have the same sort of culture and identity. They want to run the ball, be physical, a lot of play action. And then they travel to the Swamp, where after last week's big victory, Florida knocking off number 7 Utah, I really just want to ask myself, what does the encore, how does this go down? How does the curtain come up for Florida? After a huge emotional win, can they kind of now bring themselves down to back down to the ground, out of the upper atmosphere? Kentucky last week against a Miami of Ohio squad, they had trouble running the ball. Their stud running back, Chris Rodriguez Jr., will still be out this week. He will not be available. It falls on my guy, Kavosiey Smoke, one of the greatest names in all of college football. They only mustered, I believe, 50 yards of rushing last week against the Red Hawks of Miami of Ohio. That ain't going to cut it against Florida in the Swamp. And I really have issues about Kentucky's playmakers on this team. And Florida, can they regroup? Can they refocus? If they win this game, you're talking about the team through 2 games that has the best resume as far as victories over a top 10 opponent in Utah and a top 20 team in Kentucky. I like Billy Napier. I think issues of the past under former regimes there in Gainesville. Dan Mullen, he's not the same coach as Billy Napier. I think he helps them get grounded, refocus. The crowd will be amped. I like Florida in the Swamp to pull off back-to-back big-time wins. And I think then it comes down to who is the biggest threat to Georgia, Florida or Tennessee. Next matchup, down in the Lone Star State, big-time matchup, I have number 25, Houston. They travel to Texas Tech. Here we go. The Big 12, you've got a big opportunity here. Houston is the darlings of the non-Power 5 this year. They're ranked. Very, very good team. I love quarterback Clayton Tune for the Cougars, but I think this Texas Tech squad, their offense is highly overrated, or underrated, I should say. Excuse me. They have been completely overlooked. I love this Texas Tech ball club. I think they pull the upset. That's right. Score a big victory for the Big 12. I like the Red Raiders over the Houston Cougars in Lubbock. That's right. Next game, number 10, USC travels to Palo Alto to take on the Stanford Cardinal. And Palo Alto has really been a house of horrors within the last decade or two for the men of Troy. In seasons past, they have just been completely overrun, outgained, and out-physicaled by the Stanford Cardinal under Coach David Shaw, who kind of continued Coach Jim Harbaugh's culture and attitude there at Stanford. This Stanford team, I love their quarterback, McKee. I think he will be playing in the NFL next season. But I just think this is a different animal. This USC offense, they're going to put up numbers aplenty. I definitely think Stanford will slow them down. But this is really our first chance to see a new-look USC team under Coach Lincoln Riley. And we know their offense is going to be good. We know that. But the real question marks are everywhere else. Did they fill the holes along the lines of scrimmage? And is their defense going to be tough, or are they going to just crumble like pie crusts or like paper cups? But in this game, I like USC to outscore them. I'm taking the men of Troy in Palo Alto. Next game up, the Oregon State Beavers, after a very impressive win last week at home in Corvallis over the Boise State Broncos. That's right, the locals do not pronounce it as Boise, it's Boise. The Oregon State Beavers travel to Fresno State out of the Mountain West. I love quarterback Jake Haener for the Bulldogs and Victor E. Dog, their mascot. I think he's the best player at the non-Power 5 level. This is going to be a drag-em-out physical game. Oregon State wants to control the time of possession, run the ball, a lot of play action, when Fresno State just really wants to air it out. I think the home crowd is going to be pumped. It's a late kick. This is definitely a game that you need to watch. I like the Bulldogs and Jake Haener to pull an upset. So I am all aboard the Jake Haener and Fresno State train. So go Bulldogs. Next game, another one that could have been potentially my headline game of the week. Another big opportunity for the Big 12. Number 9, Baylor. That's right, the defending Big 12 champions a season ago. They travel to altitude to Provo, Utah to take on number 21, BYU. That's right, in a late kickoff. I cannot wait to watch this game. I am so excited. You talk about physical against physical. I love what Coach Dave Aranda's got going on down there in Waco, and Coach Tani Salaki at Provo at BYU. I love these two coaches. I cannot wait to watch this game. I think elevation definitely helps BYU, and they have one of the most rabid fan bases, a great home field advantage. I mean, remember, BYU has won a national championship. They have a Heisman Trophy winner. People seem to forget that. Baylor absolutely has a path to the college football playoff. This will be a feather in their cap if they can defeat the Cougars on the road in an instant classic. I think the game we'll be talking about comes Sunday and Monday. I like BYU at home to pull the upset. Fight on, Cougars. So I love this BYU team. Now we move on to my specialty games of the week. And the first one up is my Academy game of the week. And Big 12, here you go. A battle of Colorado. The Colorado Buffaloes travel in-state to take on the Air Force Falcons. I love this Air Force Falcons team. I believe ultimately they will face off with Fresno State. And I believe the winner of that game in the Mountain West Championship game will ultimately represent the non-Power 5 schools in the New Year's 6 bowl game. And for Air Force, they're trying to make history. If that happens, and if it does go their way, they will be the first ever Academy team in the New Year's 6 bowl game. In this game, Colorado, I think, is really struggling. Their head coach is Carl Durrell on the hot seat. It's only going to get hotter. I love Air Force and their triple option attack. Fly on, Falcons. Next game, my non-Power 5 matchup of the week. Old Dominion travels to East Carolina. And these two teams, one of them got the victory last week. One was just so close. Old Dominion at home knocked off Virginia Tech, ruined Coach Brent Pry's debut there as Virginia Tech head coach. East Carolina came up 1 point short of shocking the world and knocking off highly ranked NC State. The Wolfpack played really well. In this game, it's at home. I think they find a way to pick themselves up off the mat. I'm going with the Pirates of East Carolina. Next game, my next spotlight game is my FCS matchup of the week, and it features a battle of the Buckeye State, or for the Buckeye State. The Dayton Flyers travel to the Youngstown State Penguins. Woo, I love this matchup. Two of my favorite things. I mean, I love Bruce Springsteen, his song about Youngstown. Penguins, my favorite animal, so I've got to go with Youngstown State to get the victory in this matchup. Go Penguins. Next, my next two spotlight games are going to deal with our beloved black and gold squads. First up, I have Missouri traveling to the Little Apple to take on Kansas State in Manhattan. Here we go. The Big 12, another opportunity to make a statement, and also for the SEC East to be a big victory for Missouri. Right now, I believe they are 8-point dogs on the road. Missouri, I think it's going to be a lot of running back by committee. I think they're still trying to figure that out, but they have a lot of fresh legs, a lot of horses in that stable. I definitely think they're going to continue to progress, breaking in their young receiver core overall. I love the thicker kicker, Harrison Mevis. I think he could be the deciding factor. And you know what Kansas State's going to do. They are going to run again, and run some more. I mean, Coach Kleiman, he has the same culture, attitude, personality, and game plan blueprint that his successor, the legendary Bill Snyder, had there. Run the ball, a lot of QB option read, and throw the ball when you want to, not when you have to. And at the helm is former Nebraska quarterback Adrian Martinez, who I believe only threw for 58 yards last week, but didn't really attempt a lot of passes. So right now, Missouri comes into having the best rush defense in the nation. They're going to need that to slow down the K-State attack with running back Deuce Vaughn. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. I think ultimately it comes down to Harrison Mevis, and is it the Adrian Martinez now at Kansas State, or is it the turnover waiting to happen at Nebraska? I'm going with the latter of the two until I see otherwise. That's right, I'm taking Missouri in an upset on the road. I like the Tigers. Go Mizzou, M-I-Z-Z-O-U. Next, a battle of the annual Cy-Hawk game, the interstate rival. Iowa State comes calling to Kinnick Stadium to take on our Hawkeyes. Wow, and last week, the inept offense, the offensive offense for Iowa, mustering 166 yards of total offense, 109 yards through the air, I believe 58 through the ground. That just ain't going to be enough. I mean, granted, Iowa State won big against FCS foe Southeast Missouri State. Go SEMO. Shout out to the Red Hawks. SEMO is not an FCS powerhouse. They won big. Their new quarterback put up good numbers. I cannot wait. Maybe this offense wakes up after a very tough week for the Iowa offense. They've had a full week to get back to the drawing board, to prepare, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I said during my Iowa 2022 season preview, I believe the 6-game winning streak against the Iowa State Cyclones comes to an end. The Cy-Hawk Trophy has taken up residency in Iowa City. I believe this year it makes its way back to Ames. That's right, I'm going with Iowa State to come into Kinnick and pull the upset. But it really would not be an upset based on what we saw from the Iowa offense last week. But you know their defense is going to keep them in the game, and they will get up for the game. Now we come down to my headline game of the week. It's got to be this one. Here we go. The Big 12, this is your moment. Number 1 Alabama takes their talents to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns. A lot of storylines in this game. I mean, Coach Steve Sarkisian now is in his second year as the Texas head coach. Last year went 5-7. Yikes. I mean, there's already a lot of whispers about his longevity there in Austin. Also, he spent the year prior to that on the coaching staff of Nick Saban at Alabama. But maybe that armor, there's some kink. Last year, after being, I believe, 23-0 against former assistant coaches, Nick Saban lost not once, but twice against former assistants in Jimbo Fisher of Texas A&M and Kirby Smart of Georgia. Also, I mean, Texas, they've got a great home crowd. They want to get back. This could be a precursor to them joining the SEC shortly. Last year, they traveled to Arkansas, got completely shellacked and run over by the Arkansas ground game. I mean, they have potentially the best duo in the backfield in the nation with running back Bijan Robinson and five-star quarterback Quinn Ewers, who transferred from Ohio State back to the Lone Star State. He is the starter now at Texas, but this is his first real game. Granted, he did start last week, was his first career start, but this is his first start against a legit opponent. Will that be enough? Boy, I can't wait to watch it. A part of me thinks it's going to be electric. It'll be close, but I think ultimately it is going to be a landslide victory for Alabama and Coach Saban. I just don't think Texas has enough juice quite yet to win a game like this straight up against the GOAT. I like Tide to roll in Austin and get it done. So there you have it. There's my 15 picks for the week. Let me know, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Now, finally, my last segment for this episode, and thank you for your time and attention. Here is my debut for Sound Off. And how this is going to work, each and every week, I will take a subject, and it could be something good, bad, or ugly. I'll take 2 minutes and just talk. I am going to speak to you as I would somebody out there in the real world on the street, but I will do the best I can to keep it PG-13, I promise. But this week's subject is not something positive. All right, so let me explain what it is first, and then I will start the clock. I am going to discuss, if you're a Penn State person, you better hear me. You may not want to hear me, but you will. You might agree, disagree, or not pay attention, but I got to get this off my chest. I am going to focus on the sex scandal that happened a decade ago there at Penn State. So here we go, starting now. This season marks the 10-year anniversary that the penalties from the sex scandal at Penn State within their football program became public, but 11 years since that scandal itself became public with what was going down with former coach Jerry Sandusky. Just pathetic. I mean, I'm not going to talk about Jerry Sandusky. I'll get to that here in a little bit. The clock is ticking. But what I really remember is the kickoff after the penalties were announced. Your bowl ban, your loss of scholarships, your reduction in visits by recruits. You did let the NCAA let any players from Penn State transfer and be eligible immediately. A lot of you there, you couldn't believe that. You thought it was unfair. How dare they? This is not justified. It's not right. For all of you who were on that bandwagon, I say shame on you. And I remember the first game, because the first game at home, after these penalties were announced, Joe Paterno had passed away a couple months before of cancer. And I remember them running out of the tunnel, and basically all you Penn State fans celebrating, honoring, saying, "We are Penn State, your cardboard cutouts of Joe Paterno. We miss you, Joe. You're the best." I think all of y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. There's nothing wrong with supporting your team. That's what we do in times of strife and times that are difficult. We support, but we do not celebrate. Each and every one of you who celebrated that, you took not a single second to think about the victims. There was no sense of compassion shown or regret or remorse. It was ugly, pathetic, and quite frankly, it was hard for me to stomach. And when fast forward or rewind a few months when it broke the evening that they had fired and released Coach Joe Paterno, who, it seems pretty obvious, did have an idea that this was happening, even though he did report it to his upper echelon. He reported to his bosses, but morally he had the responsibility to morally do more. As the captain, you are responsible for the men and women under your watch, no matter what they do. I remember when it broke that evening that he was fired, all you Penn State fans, you took it to the streets of Happy Valley, you rioted, we want Joe, we want Joe. Yeah, you guys should have taken it to the street, but not to riot, but to celebrate the ending of a child molestation ring there at Penn State. And quite frankly, you should have gotten the death penalty. Even right now, you guys shouldn't even have a football program. I hate even using the term anniversary, because normally anniversaries you usually will use when it's an overall positive experience or date or event, when this was not. So all of you Penn State fans who partook in that 10 years ago, you need to ask forgiveness from every victim, from the good Lord above. And Jerry Sandusky, may you rot in prison for every single day of your natural life. That's exactly where you belong. Amen. I'm done. So that's my sound off for this week. Next week, figure out who am I going to put under the radar. All right? So that's it for today's episode. Thank you for all you do. Like, share, rate, subscribe. Have a great weekend. I hope all of you had a great Labor Day holiday weekend as well. Enjoy the football. Go Hawks. Go Tigers. Hopefully the team you root for comes out victorious. And until I see you, you could be expecting my Week 2 review and recap show either Monday or Tuesday of next week. So until then, I always bid you adieu with peace, progress, prosperity. And until then, thank you for tuning into the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. See you next week. Bye-bye.